The fall of the Berlin Wall, the end of a divided Germany. For nearly 3 decades, the Berlin Wall stood as a stark symbol of division, separating not just a city, but an entire world ideologically divided between communism and democracy. But on November 9, 1989, this barrier fell, changing the course of history. The fall of the Berlin Wall was not just the end of a physical structure, it was the triumph of unity, hope, and the unrelenting resistance of the human spirit. In this video, we journey through the events that built the wall, the courageous struggle that led to its demise, and how this pivotal moment reshaped Germany and the entire world. To understand the Berlin Wall, we must travel back to the aftermath of World War II. Germany, once a powerful nation, had been reduced to ruins. The Allies, the United States, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, and France, divided the country into 4 occupation zones. Tensions soon grew between the democratic Western Allies and the Communist Soviet Union, leading to the creation of 2 distinct German states in 1949. The Federal Republic of Germany, West Germany, and the German Democratic Republic, East Germany. This division mirrored a larger global battle. The Cold War was underway, pitting the Soviet-led Eastern Bloc against the Western democracies. Berlin, despite being entirely within East Germany, was also split. The western portion of the city was governed by the Democratic Allies, creating an island of freedom within a communist regime. The disparity between East and West Berlin soon became evident. West Berlin flourished with economic aid and democratic governance, while East Berlin fell into economic stagnation under Soviet control. By the late 1950s, thousands of East Germans were fleeing to the west through Berlin, seeking better opportunities and freedom. This brain drain was not just a loss of people, it was a blow to the East German state's legitimacy. On the cold morning of August 13, 1961, Berlin woke to find itself physically divided. The East German government, with Soviet approval, began constructing a wall to stop its citizens from fleeing. Barbed wire and cinder block barricades were quickly erected, which would eventually be replaced by a fortified concrete wall, stretching 96 miles with guard towers, attack dogs, and a deadly death strip in the middle. For East Germany, this wall was propaganda, a protective barrier against Western influence. But for those living in its shadow, it was a prison. Families were torn apart overnight, friends could no longer visit each other, and an entire population was fenced in. Berlin's heart was split, and the wall became the definitive symbol of Cold War oppression. What was it like to live in a city divided? For East Berliners, life under the wall was one of surveillance and restricted freedoms. The state secret police, the Stasi, kept a close watch on citizens, crushing dissent to ensure loyalty to the regime. Meanwhile, in West Berlin, life continued with relative freedom and prosperity, creating a stark contrast just feet away. The wall did more than divide, it stifled hopes and dreams. Imagine being separated from a loved one, knowing that just the act of attempting to cross could cost your life. Between 1961 and 1989, more than 100 people were killed attempting to escape over, under, or through the wall. Yet despite the risks, acts of defiance emerged. People built tunnels, hot air balloons, and even rigged cars to smuggle loved ones into the West. Their courage in the face of danger lit a flame of resistance that would not be easily extinguished. The Berlin Wall was not merely a local issue, it was a global one. Germany became the focal point of an ideological battle between the world's 2 superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. The division of Berlin symbolized the larger clash of communism versus democracy, an ideological struggle that defined the Cold War era. During this time, the world teetered on the edge of conflict, with nuclear weapons pointing both ways. Events such as the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 showcased the fragile nature of this global standoff. And yet, Berlin remained the ultimate pressure point. To those in the West, Berlin represented a fight for freedom in the face of tyranny. To the East, It was a bulwark of communist ideology that had to be maintained at all costs. By the 1980s, cracks in the communist system began to appear. The Eastern Bloc economies, including East Germany's, were faltering. The centralized model of control couldn't match the innovation and prosperity seen in the capitalist West. Dissatisfaction among citizens grew louder, despite efforts by governments to suppress dissent. At the same time, Mikhail Gorbachev became the leader of the Soviet Union. His policies of glasnost, openness, and perestroika, restructuring, introduced reforms that rippled across the Eastern Bloc. Gorbachev encouraged dialogue and relaxed the Soviet grip on its satellite states, leading to a domino effect of reform movements throughout Eastern Europe. In East Germany, the call for change became impossible to ignore. By 1989, peaceful protests were erupting across the country, growing in number and strength. The city of Leipzig became the epicenter of resistance, with thousands gathering every Monday in defiance of police presence and state surveillance. Men and women of all ages took to the streets under the rallying cry, "Wir sind das Volk," we are the people. These demonstrations were anything but easy. Participants risked imprisonment, violence, and persecution. Yet, they persevered. The protests revealed a growing truth. The government could no longer suppress a populace united for freedom. The courage of the East German people, ordinary citizens with an extraordinary vision of unity, brought the government closer to the tipping point. Then, the day arrived, November 9th, 1989. What happened that night seemed almost unthinkable. A hastily arranged press conference left East German officials scrambling to deliver clear instructions about changes to border restrictions. When a government spokesperson mistakenly announced that citizens could cross immediately, the response was electric. Crowds gathered at crossing points along the Berlin Wall, demanding to be let through. Overwhelmed and confused, the border guards, with no clear guidance, made a historic decision. They opened the gates. Thousands of Berliners poured through, meeting friends and strangers in joyous celebration. People climbed atop the wall, danced, and began chipping away at the concrete barrier that had divided them for so long. The images of that night were broadcast around the world. They showed a moment of pure, collective triumph, the moment when a wall meant to symbolize division could no longer hold against the will of unity. The fall of the Berlin Wall was the beginning of Germany's reunification. Over the next year, East and West Germany merged politically, economically, and socially to become one nation again. Yet, the road to reunification was not without its challenges. Integrating the two Germanys required time, effort, and understanding as they bridged decades of separation. The significance of the wall's fall extends far beyond Germany's borders. It marked the end of the Cold War, as the Eastern Bloc nations followed Germany's example in overthrowing communist regimes. The collapse of the Soviet Union soon followed, reshaping the global order. Today, the Berlin Wall stands as a poignant reminder of the struggles of those who lived through it and the resilience of those who overcame it. Its remains are preserved, covered in vibrant artwork and messages of hope, unity, and peace. The fall of the Berlin Wall is about more than history. It's about the enduring human spirit, the refusal to accept division, the courage to demand change, and the belief that unity can overcome even the most immovable barriers. It reminds us that freedom is not granted, it's fought for, earned, and cherished. With the fall of the wall, Germany was no longer divided, and the world inched closer to peace. This moment in time stands as a testament to what is possible when hope rises, when hands unite, and when walls, both physical and ideological, are brought down. Because, as history has shown us, even the mightiest walls cannot stand against the power of people determined to be free.